Hitler could not defeat our friend Boris. Now Vladimir Putin has killed him. Holocaust survivor Boris Romantchenko Center stands next to other former prisoners of the Buchenwald Nazi concentration camp during a commemoration ceremony in April 2015. CNN, the Walk Week at the Buchenwald Memorial, which honors the lives lost at Buchenwald Nazi concentration camp, began Monday with a shock. In the morning, we received the news from Ukraine that our friend Boris Romantchenko, a survivor of the Buchenwald and three other concentration camps, had died when a Russian missile struck his multi-story apartment building in Kharkiv. Romantchenko was 96 years old. In a concentration camp, he had fought with his fellow Russian prisoners against the SS. Since his liberation in 1945, Romantchenko had been committed to preserving the memory of Nazi terror and to peace. Now his brave man, whose mother tongue was Russian, has become a victim of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a tragedy and a shame. Romantchenko was born in 1926 in the village of Bondari in the Sumy Oblast of Ukraine. In late 1942, a year and a half after a German invasion of the Soviet Union, the occupiers deported in the old man in his village, some as young as 16, to Germany to perform forced labor. Lomachenko, who was only 16 at the time, was sent with other villagers to Dortmund, where he was forced to work in the underground coal mine. He tried to escape from the camp, but was arrested by guards and police at the Dortmund flight station. He passed through several prisons before the Gestapo, the German secret police, deported him to the Buchenwald concentration camp near Wed March. In late January 1943, he was forced to do hard work in a quarry there. In June 1943, the SS transferred him and nearly 200 other prisoners to Peenemünde on the Baltic Sea island of Usedom. The prisoners had to assemble the V-2 rocket developed by Werner von Braun, which was used to bombard London and Antwerp in 1944. After a British air raid on Peenemünde in August of 1943, which was killed concentration camp prisoners, and the rocket assembly was transferred to the underground tunnel facility in the Harz Mountains, the Mijabau Dora concentration camp. The SS moved the prisoners, including Romantchenko, from Peenemünde to the Harz Mountains, where they walked and lived underground. 4-tier wooden cot in the underground concentration camp, the Hell of Dora. Caught in the 50-meter deep tunnel served as accommodations. The prisoners called the underground concentration camp the Hell of Dora. Romantchenko survived this hell, which had been marked by hunger, illness, and abuse. He was survived a death march to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in April 1945. British troops fled him there in April 15, 1945, but he was not allowed to return home just yet. In the Stalinist-ruled Soviet Union, Soviet concentration camp prisoners and prisoners of war who had survived this ordeal were suspected of having collaborated with the Germans. Their survivors in the hands of the enemy was deemed suspicious. Like so many other Soviet concentration camp survivors, Romantsenko was forced to serve as the occupying soldier in the Red Army in East Germany. He was expected to prove himself there and demonstrate that he was an upright Soviet citizen. He was not allowed to return to his home in eastern Ukraine until 1950. Back in Ukraine, Romantchenko had a day job as the typist. In the evenings, he studies mining engineering and successfully earned a degree. He later designed farming machinery. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, he began to speak openly about his experiences as the prisoner in the German concentration camp. He traveled to Germany many times and participated in the commemorative event at the Buchenwald and the Michel-Dora memorials. Lomachenko spoke to school children about his experiences and argued us to safeguard the peace and freedom to protect human rights. I wish you the best of luck from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that no one ever has to go through what we former prisoners experienced, he said in 2013, speaking from the roll call square of the memorial on the anniversary of the liberation of the Buchenwald concentration camp. At the time, no one could have imagined that 9 years later, Romantchenko, who had survived the concentration camp and the Second World War, would be killed in the Russian airstrike. He is survived by his son and granddaughter, who lovingly cared for him over the last months when fear of the coronavirus had forced him to stay in his apartment. Hitler could not defeat our friend Boris. Now another fascist dictator, Vladimir Putin, has killed him. But Putin is not a new Hitler, despite all the outreach over the ruler in Moscow, who ordered the invasion of Ukraine and is not squeamishy about brutally oppressing his own people. We should be careful not to draw false historical analogies between Nazi terror and the crimes committed by Putin and his vassal state. The Holocaust and other Nazi crimes were singular events committed in the specific historical context, and we should be wary of relevant relativizing this event. Yet we do not need comparisons with the Holocaust to express our outrage at the current crimes of the Russia's leadership. It also should be clearly stated that Putin's claim of wanting to denazify Ukraine is a brazen lie created to justify his aggressive imperialism, a lie rooted in the 19th century idea of the Greater Russia. The absurdity of this lie is demonstrated by the thousands of Ukrainian survivors of Nazi terror who fought with their Russian comrades against the Nazis in the Second World War and who are now being threatened and in the case of Boris Romantchenko murdered by Russian bombs. It is tragedy and the betrayal of the legacy of the survivors of the Buchenwald who in 1945 stood on the roll call square of the liberated camp and swore we would build a world of peace and freedom.